プリティホリックの。
それはどんな食べ物なんだ？
Isn't one of that store's top products that candy we're even going to see later in this episode? I mean, I don't care for the product placement at all, but at the same time, if you don't talk about it now, the higher-ups might get on your case later, just saying. We opened on our heroines making a pot of meat sauce.
ミートソースはイタリアではボロネーゼって言って。
Whatever. And Mrs. Nagumi offered to help them, but was turned down by her daughter, who assured her that they could handle it, and in a nice bit of visual storytelling that wasn't ruined by a certain voice from the heavens, we could just see the envy in Kokune's eyes. Sure enough, it was because she longed to see her own mother.
その味覚の鋭さは神の舌の異名を持つほどだ。
I prefer the other translation. Actually, does that mean that Kokone is related to that obnoxious Yunde? But yeah, because her parents were pretty much celebrities, that of course meant they weren't home as much, and thus couldn't have many meals together. In fact, you could say one of the greatest ironies of many a one-percenter family is the fact that they often aren't eating that many actual fancy meals together, and are more likely getting more takeout than the average family. I mean, honestly, could you even imagine Jeff Bezos just sitting down to have a nice casual meal rather than having one of his maid slaves, employees, bring him some Grubhub? Fortunately for Kokone, though, her marriage schedule had opened up.
Phrasing?
But yeah, because of a sudden cancellation, both of Kokone's parents were going to be around, which should have made her happy. However, there was a much greater crisis at hand. Honestly, with how little actual conflict there is in this show, I was kind of hoping that stuff would burn. At least it would make this guy happy. Anyway, as if to back up my earlier point, the Fua family's dinner was some takeout sushi, which while I'd kill to have a dinner like that, it wasn't exactly a homemade meal that they could bond over.
やっぱり日本のお寿司は美味しいな。
You're saying that right before you plan on destroying Shinjuku, aren't you, you bastard?
俺は死神、クボ丹蔵。
Hell, they weren't even eating the sushi together, as Mrs. Fua had already had a big lunch, and Kokone was having toast for dinner, which, okay, that's just weird, eat some damn sushi, girl. But still, I do really like the setup of how disjointed this family was, with their schedules likely having forced Mr. Fua to order some sushi, while Kokone had already planned her meal, implying that she has gotten way too used to eating alone. It was an awkwardly tragic little setup, as they even tried to make discussing how good their water was as a talking point.
Don't you understand? I can't abide mere tap water. I want Evian!
And again, I just love how most of this isn't spelled out for the viewers, even during the later exposition dialogue. It's the kind of engaging writing that I really do wish was more the norm for the show. The next day, Kokone pretty much clarified that this was going to be different from her previous episodes, where she also said that she had been used to being alone. After all, parents are kind of different creatures than your friends of similar age. Though speaking of parenting, I think Ron should take better care of her little dragon friend. I'm pretty sure he should be swept up by the current. Anyway, each of her friends shared their familial tales, where they at least got into some conflict with their family members, and yet remained close regardless. Thus, they suggested that Kokone should try to be a little more
assertive!
God, I love using that reference. But yeah, basically they encouraged her to be at least a little more selfish, so that their bonds at least would remain stagnant, and hell, might even strengthen it by the end. Though apparently, there was a time when Kokone was a little more selfish when she was a lot younger, which yeah, is pretty much the age when kids should be allowed to be a little greedy. However, after making a little fuss about getting some donut holes, Kokone's aunt was just kind of there and told her not to be selfish, and I guess that led to her becoming a lot more reclusive. Well, to be fair, I guess that is also the age when the trauma of the Karen is going to be at its greatest. Okay, but seriously, this incident did also end up coinciding with her parents' work schedules drastically intensifying to the point that they weren't home nearly as much. Again, this is an interesting setup that allows for different discussions and interpretations like what Mrs. Fua ended up having with Rosemary and Yui's mom.
一緒に美味しいものでも食べたらいいんじゃない？私の母がよく言ってた。
子供の願い事は未来の現実。それを夢と笑う大人はもはや人間ではない。
anyone else think that these MILFs have better discussions than their daughters? But yeah, good stuff that even tied in that cheap product placement from the last episode. It doesn't excuse how superfluous it was, or the fact that they sequel baited us, but whatever, still good scene. Also, question of the video, but am I the only one who finds the Crunchyroll subs to be kind of bad? I mean, not only did they not translate the much more meme-worthy God tongue, but pressurizing? Really? You don't want to just say pressuring her like any normal human would? Anyway, the show stealers, well, that works on multiple levels, got their one good scene for this episode when their boss showed up again. Oh yeah, I legit didn't notice Goldots was kind of gone. It's almost as if we should really start developing these antagonists and their modus operandi. No, well, at least these two's reactions to him were entertaining enough. Meanwhile, the Fuas thankfully didn't just beat around the bush and just ate the fried balls of dough together.
Hey, phrasing!
Yeah, there was no big fanfare here, which honestly it didn't need, and just had the mother and daughter say what they wanted to say. I'll take it over forced melodrama any day. Granted, they still ended up making a scene because of that overused plot point. Seriously, am I the only one who never got why Erina was so popular? To me, Megumi will always be the real female lead. Anyway, obvious victim of the week is obvious, and the monster was a rolling pin / batter dispenser. Yeah, fun fact, these things are used to pour batter directly into the hot oil without the need to cut out any holes. As a result, many donut holes these days are made separately from the actual donuts and therefore aren't leftover dough scraps like they used to be. So in a way, you could say they ended up bonding over a lie. Just some food for thought. And this week's fight was okay, with everyone being able to get in their licks, including Takumi getting his once per episode, but of course, special attention had to go to Kokone.
She gonna do superhero landing. Wait for it! Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
I did like how they defeated it by first disabling its weapons by attacking its glowing weak spots. Very video game bossy in a way. With that, the episode ended with the Fuas coming together, with even Kubo taking time away from disappointingly not being the final boss, to learn about what the Pretty Holic was and buy something for his daughter. And as a result, Kokone became a little more assertive, with her parents encouraging her to be at least a little selfish, like any good parent should, in the hopes of getting closer to their kid. Count that one for the sake of consistency. This was another good Kokone episode. That's really all I have to say. Alright, I'll also say they did have a good lesson that for the most part avoided the pitfall of repeating previous Lonely Blue outings by making it more about her parental issues and the complications that come from having busy parents. Otherwise, in general, I guess it is good that Kokone got just one more spotlight for this core of the series. By the way, when is Yui gonna get one? I think more than anything, I appreciate that this episode avoided most of the hand-holding that the show usually does with their storytelling. Sure, there was still some needless and repeated exposition, but at least it was coming from the characters and not the narrator, who again, I only counted that last bit for the sake of consistency because otherwise she at least behaved this week. The story itself was kind of a standard estranged parent tale, though I did like the lesson encouraging kids to be a little selfish rather than submissive little drones. I especially appreciate it now, as at the same time I'm editing this, I'm also working on a certain Doremi Sharp review, which, yeah, I've got a few things to talk about in regards to a certain other parent-daughter relationship. But yeah, a good lesson and development for Kokone involving donuts, which, considering who the writer was, maybe it's just her specialty. It certainly helped that Mutsumi Ito was the one veteran writer on the show, and I really do wish episodes like this were at least the bare minimum. Especially when considering, due to the hack, this is, or at least is, very close to the series midpoint. And yet, there's still a lot of things that have been left very underdeveloped. I brought up Goldots and his little gang, and while the generals are fun characters on their own, we also still haven't really delved into their motivations, like why they simp so hard for their often absentee boss. And then there's the little issue of our lead and her seemingly not getting any spotlight episodes, and yet Kokone's gonna get one more 3 episodes from now. Maybe this one focused on her, but even then, the fact that we had to wait until past the halfway point for another Yui episode after the first and maybe second episode is not a good sign. In my opinion, this show's writing will need to be at least of this quality going forward. Still, overall, this was a great character building episode for Kokone, who's probably going to get another in about a month's time. Is this another Hime situation?
Also, yeah, sorry for the late upload, but if you read the latest community post, then you know I had a close relative's wedding to go to.
I had a nice time, and even if the hotel we stayed in was kind of crap, at least the food was good. Also, don't worry, this won't interfere with the video schedule for the most part, in particular the Doremi Sharp review, which will come out normally, and yeah, a bit of a weird coincidence that we ended up having 2 Mother episodes in the same week.
So look forward to it. Until then, though, for now, my friends, and oh, looks like the time birds are destroying all reality again. Better go bring in the laundry.